All right, we got to go to the hotline. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome back to the show. This is Chris Hardwick. Chris, how you doing, buddy?
Good. How's it going?
Were you missing? They said they couldn't find you.
No, so I'm doing a radio tour today for the auction show that I did, and they said, "Oh, it starts at 6:30," but what it actually was supposed to start at was 6:25.
Oh,
all in at 6:25 so that we'd be live at 6:30. But I called in at 6:30, like, "Hello, everyone," and they're like, "Where have you been for 5 minutes?"
Everybody stresses out. Anyway, you're here now, so it doesn't matter.
You know, I worked in live radio. I know, like, that it is, when people listen to you, I don't think they realize, like, how much skill and work it takes to keep a several-hour radio show not only going, but, like, on time. It is remarkable, so I apologize. I hope you can forgive me.
Do you know, though, that part of me, and I'm sure this isn't a lot of the shows on your tour, I'm going to be like this, say, part of me almost hopes you don't call so we could just talk bad about you after that.
Because that's actually better content.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like,
not specifically you. I happen to be a fan of yours. I like you a lot. Like, I couldn't. All I'd have to say is, "Oh, he didn't call." But sometimes when people we're not even sure if we should have them on, they're like so happy.
You know what's really funny about that is I completely support and understand where you're coming from, because when I worked in radio, when I did morning radio for a few years, it was the same kind of thing. And then it's like, well, how can you not take it personally? Why didn't when you don't know what happened? Like, oh, maybe their car broke down and they couldn't get to but you're still like, how dare they? This is unforgivable. Like, you really. And you're also tired because you have to get up at 3:30 in the morning. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's all of those things add up. So if I had missed the call, I would have supported that. But thank you for taking me a few minutes late.
Well, listen, it all worked out perfect. Chris Hardwick has a show called Up for Auction, which is available on the CW app. Now, it says you're an avid collector, and I know you're a pop culture guy and all that stuff, but what do? Do you collect anything specific? Because I collect a lot of garbage.
Well, my wife and I both collect stuff. My wife collects horror movie props, so she has, like, original Gremlins and just stuff from different horror movies. And I collect. I have a lot of comedy movie props, so I have stuff from Back to the Future. I have the Rick Moranis' helmet from Spaceballs. I have that I was able to get Mel Brooks and Rick Moranis to both sign. So it's like we collect all this stuff, but together we collect a lot of Disney stuff, like Disneyana, like Disney Cells, Disneyland, Disney World Park memorabilia, like stuff that it lived in the park, and then they, swap it out for newer stuff, and so then it just kind of goes out into the world. And so there's this really great auction house in LA that sort of became like the premier Disney auction house. And I just said to them, like, this is such an amazing process. Would you ever want to do a show about it? And they said, it just so happens the single largest Disney collection in the world is about to go up for auction. This was last year. And so, they let us kind of film it. And also it was just like an excuse to kind of get close to all these really, iconic historical items, and to just kind of, these are like, they're just like pieces of art, but also pieces of history. And everyone kind of has some sort of a personal story connected to the park, depending on the ride or what era it was. So
let me ask you,
it's a really lovely show.
Do you how old of a guy are you?
Oh, God, do we have to? I'm 52.
I was going to say, I have Google. I can just find out in 2 seconds. I'm 52 also. Do you
Right.
I am. So, I mean, I could know. I just wonder if you ever do what I do. Like, I have a gazillion autographed guitars. I have football jerseys. I have a Funko Pops. Like, I have a bunch of stuff. At some point in my 52 years, I stopped and I went, what's the end game? Like, what am I doing with all this garbage? Like, I felt like first of all, my kids couldn't care less about it. Like, they don't want it when I die. What am I doing with all of it? Like, I mean, I still enjoy it and I still collect, but I don't really know what the end game is. It's going to be just a headache for my wife when I die.
Well, I have a couple of thoughts about that, because that is sort of the long-running philosophical question of the collector is, what do you do with all this stuff? And I think there's something very specific about our human brains, which are, animal at the stem of the brain. So I think there's something that motivates us to, like, must collect things that relate to one another, but also I do think that there is that kind of like, why do I have so much stuff?
Yeah.
You know, George Carlin did a whole routine about how we collect stuff and how we, just amass stuff. But I do think that you and we are also kind of preserving these things for future generations, because what will happen is eventually someday in several decades, when you and I are no longer around, those things will filter out back into the world to people who will hopefully cherish them. And that's kind of what these auctions do.
Yeah.
And by the way, if your wife is like, tired of all your stuff and you want to get rid of it, then you can give it to an auction house, and they can. The great thing about the auction houses is that that the people who get those things really want them.
Yeah.
So they will cherish and protect them. But there's, it's not like there's a museum to protect and preserve like Disney park stuff, like ride cars and things that were in Haunted Mansion and stuff. So it's kind of up to private collectors to do that. But with the auctions, you can also spend $50 and get something meaningful to you from the park. So you don't have to spend like a ton of money.
That's true. I've gotten some really good stuff for on the cheap on the auctions. Most of them are going for charity and all that stuff. But the show is called Up for Auction. It's available on the CW app. It's Chris Hardwick. Can I tell you what show I thought you would be fantastic for? Is the minute that Pat Sajak said he was going to retire, I thought you would have been great at doing Wheel of Fortune.
Oh, you know what? I actually, if they had offered it to me, I would have done it. Like, that show is fun.
Yeah. I mean, you have the right.
That's a fun show.
You have the right mentality for it. You're just a very. You're pleasant on TV. I just think that would have been great for you. Plus, I hear they bang them all out in like 30 days and make a ton of money on them. That would be a good gig.
Oh yeah, it is pretty quick. It is pretty good. But you know what? They picked a great host, so I have no regrets about that. But if they had asked, I probably would have been like, oh my god, of course. I mean, it's a legendary show.
Well, look, you do good as a game show host, and I will check out Up for Auction, and then I will sit there and I will contemplate what two 52-year-olds with a house full of garbage are going to do one day with all their stuff. I hope the rest of
complain about how we don't have room for anything.
Yeah, exactly. I hope the rest of your tour goes well, my man. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Next time I will be a minute early. Thank you so much.
We're all good. Thanks, brother. Take it easy.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
There you go. Chris Hardwick. He's a good dude.